What is going on, guys, and welcome back to another episode of the Kielpro Dynasty Show. I'm your host, Caleb, and we are back today to talk about 2022 NFL Draft prospects. So it's been a little while since I did another episode. It's been a couple months, and a lot has changed in the prospect landscape, a lot of breakout players. And with the fantasy season wrapping up, if you made the playoffs, good luck. And if you didn't, it's officially draft season. So I'm here today to hop in and show you guys, talk to you guys about who might be available with those first round picks and maybe your second round picks as well as we slowly delve into the film on these players. It'll be interesting to see where we're at. So, right without further ado, we'll hop into my Dynasty Index here. If you watch my film videos, you always see at the end I'm advertising this thing. It's pretty much my draft database for everything with my Dynasty rankings. So, this is all centered around Dynasty, obviously. So if you want to check out my Dynasty ranks, they're in here. And then obviously the 2022 draft database. It's $20 for a year, $3 for a month. So if you just want to grab it with draft season around the corner, we've got all this in here. I do the offensive players, and then Owen from the weekly Huddle, he's got all the defensive players in here as well. So if you're interested in that, you'll be able to check all that out as well. It's a deep edge rusher class, if you haven't already known, with a lot of good top guys. So anyways, let's get to Dynasty. So this is going to be based around Superflex, and we're going to look at the quarterbacks and kind of where it's shaken out for me here. So at the top, there's two main guys I'm focused on, and comparing this quarterback class to last year, it's not as good, and that's even with the struggles of some of these top guys this year. It hasn't been pretty for our guys, Lawrence, Fields, Wilson. Really, Mac Jones has looked the best out of all of them, and he's just sort of been more of a game manager. So, comparing it to last class, I think it's a little weaker, but these two guys at the top I like a lot, and that's Matt Corral and Kenny Pickett. Both really took a big steps forward this season. Matt Corral was sort of on my radar, but he really blew up early in the season. I think he was dealing with an ankle injury down the way, so he kind of slowed down a little bit, but a true dual threat quarterback. I think he's got double digit rushing touchdowns. He had a game with 5. And he can just do it all. Dual threat, flick of the wrist, big arm, velocity off the hands, great deep ball kind of player. And it's hard to pick out many weaknesses in his game. Honestly, he's good with the ball. He protects it well, so you don't have to worry about a ton of turnovers. And he's pretty much been my number one guy in here for a while. So I love Matt Corral, but the big riser has been Kenny Pickett, and I love this guy. I think I did some film on him last year, and I really wasn't all that impressed. And it is night and day how much better he is this year. I mean, accuracy at all levels. Everyone saw the fake slide that he did, and now that's outlawed in college football. But that was a sick play, and that's part of his game. At 6'3", 220, you don't expect him to be a very mobile guy. And I keep seeing it on like Twitter and stuff. People like, yeah, say he's not really a mobile quarterback. I disagree. I mean, you can get this guy outside the pocket, and he'll keep his eyes downfield. But if there's an opening, he'll take it and he can run. And he's not all that slow. So I think he's got decent mobility. He's accurate at all levels. Puts nice touch on deep passes, and he's kind of got a little bit of everything you want in an NFL quarterback. So he's a little older prospect. You can see I have the age there. 23.5 years old right now, so getting close to 24 by the time he's drafted. And I know we haven't gotten the measurements official from the Senior Bowl, but hand size is sometimes a concern. I don't know how much I'm going to factor that into it, but these top two guys, Matt Corral, Kenny Pickett, are two guys I'd feel comfortable taking as I have it here. Obviously, round 1 in the NFL, but early first in Superflex Dynasty. These are the guys I would be looking at. After that, it gets a little weird. Sam Howell was one of the top guys coming into this year, and he's still good. I just don't know how much upside he has. I think he could be a consistent starter at the next level. Lost a lot of weapons this year, kind of regressed. Obviously, I mean, you lose Javonte Williams, Michael Carter, De'Ami Brown, Daz Newsome. I mean, it's pretty much all new playmakers on his side of the ball. And he found ways to adjust. He really opened up his rushing ability, had a nice season rushing the ball, and that would kind of turn into how the offense would churn sometimes. Good accuracy, off-platform throws, got a good arm. It's just, I don't know the upside with him. I compare him to Baker Mayfield, where he's he's a guy who could probably be a starter at the next level for a while, but is he going to be able to take you to the next level? Is he going to be able to lead you to a Super Bowl? And I'm just not sure he's quite there. But if you're looking for an improvement at quarterback, something you desperately need, I think he could be a solid starter at the next level, just not with crazy upsides. So that's why I have him in sort of the mid-first range for Dynasty. You're always looking for quarterbacks. So if you can get one who's going to have a starting job, if he gets a good landing spot, he's definitely a nice prospect there. Malik Willis, I go back and forth on him. Dual threat quarterback, crazy quick, fast, can break tackles as a runner. And he's got the build. I mean, 6'1", 215 is all right, but he's thickly built, and he can make all the throws, big arm, but it's just doing it with consistency and protecting the ball. When I watched him this summer, he struggled with protecting the football, fumbles, interceptions, and it's gotten better this year, but I still don't know how much I trust him, and I don't think he can be a guy who can, like Howell, where he can come in and start right away. I don't think Malik Willis can do that. I think he's got to sit behind a quarterback for a little bit. But with Malik Willis, you have the upside of a guy with all the intangibles, all the raw traits you want in a top quarterback. It's just hasn't quite put it all together yet. So I have him as sort of a late first in Dynasty. I could see someone really like him taking him mid first, but that's around sort of where I have him at the moment. And then there's really only two other guys that are on my radar for Dynasty. As you can see, I have undrafted grades on all the rest of these dudes, and there's a few that may enter the transfer portal, maybe not even declare for the draft. So, first of all, Desmond Ridder, someone I really liked in the offseason when I watched his film, and I was excited by the fact that he was working with the quarterback coach that sort of fixed Josh Allen's accuracy issues. Unfortunately, those are still rearing its head in 2021. It's pretty much what it is, like the accuracy inconsistencies. I mean, he can do a little bit of everything. He's got good mobility, big arm, can make all the throws, as you see here. Just the ball just flies off. He's got the prettiest spiral, but it's the accuracy inconsistencies. Just airmailing passes over the middle, hospital throws at times. It's tough to commit to a guy. I mean, with the potential, I think he might have the highest potential out of all the quarterbacks in this class, but it's just putting it all together. And he still has time to make a nice run here at the end of the season, maybe put up a really nice game film against Alabama in the playoffs, but I don't see him being a starter right away. Where he goes in the NFL draft, I could see him going round one. I mean, it would be kind of fun to see him on the Steelers. I just don't know. I mean, there's just some issues with where another guy where I don't trust him starting right away unless he really cleans up his accuracy. And then last guy, Carson Strong out of Nevada. I'm just not a big Carson Strong guy. There's people that like him as like QB1, and he's got the arm to be QB1, but maybe we've just shifted so much towards guys that are mobile, can make plays on the ground, that an immobile guy, a guy that can't move like Carson Strong, just really turns me off. I mean, he has been dealing with a knee injury, so that may be hampering him a bit there, probably is. That's also being factored into where he's going to get drafted. I know a lot of people are talking about how that knee might drop him down draft boards or off draft boards, so that's another thing to worry about with him. So putting that together, I mean, he's got the arm to be an NFL quarterback. I just don't know if I really trust him. So I've got a round 2 grade on him and a mid-second super flex. If you're looking for a guy who maybe just wasn't utilized well enough at Nevada, I don't know. He pretty much was the offense. So yeah, Carson Strong is probably the last of the guys I'd be looking at for in your rookie drafts. So let's hop over to the running backs. An interesting class, pretty much top heavy again. Helped out, buoyed by a few guys that really broke out this year who we'll get to. But we'll start with my top guys here. First off, number 1, Isaiah Spiller. Breece Hall was the number 1 for me coming into the year, but Isaiah Spiller has really stepped up this year. I think I compared him sort of to Javonte Williams in the offseason, where, elusive, can break tackles, good contact balance. Just a really bruising back, 6'1", 225, big dude, and he's still young, 20 years old when he's drafted, so that's great. And can do a little bit of everything. He's not the most refined pass catcher in terms of route running and stuff, but he's still a really good player and could establish as a 3-down guy. So I've got an early first Superflex grade on him, and a round 1 NFL grade. The other guy I have a round 1 NFL grade on is Breece Hall. He is interesting. I still need to watch a lot more film on these guys. Obviously, things are going to change as I make more film and as more come out. I think I got a few games in here. I got 4 games, so a decent amount. But he is another guy. I mean, he's an interesting running back because he's so patient in the way he runs and how he plays the game. Is a lot different than some of these like home run hitting guys. The vision and patience, able to get skinny between defenders, and he's elusive. Ball security, he has turned the ball over a lot. That is a big problem he was dealing with. And, sometimes he can be too patient where things just aren't going to open up and he just needs to push forward, but he's just waiting back there. So that's another issue. He's a bigger back, too. It's interesting how sort of different these players are between Breece Hall and Isaiah Spiller, where they're almost the same size. Spiller's a little bigger. I don't know if he's going to weigh in at 225, but I still think, people have been kind of down on him, but I don't know. I think he's still a solid receiving threat, and it's just, you think he broke the record for most consecutive touchdowns in a career? It was like a stupid amount of games, like 30-some games. Breece Hall, I'm still a fan. I don't quite have him in the early first here. I don't know what. It'll be interesting what he runs in a 40-yard dash. I mean, we're not going to hinge it on everything, but I'm interested to see what his long speed is. So those are the top 2 guys, but here are some guys that really helped out this running back class, and that's Kenneth Walker, running back out of Michigan State, and Zach Charbonnet, running back out of UCLA. I mean, Kenneth Walker's ascension was crazy. He played at Wake Forest last year, transferred to Michigan State, and put up, almost a Heisman-worthy season. He wasn't invited to the award, but I think he got a few first-place votes from what I saw. So he is interesting, too, where I think he's a little one-dimensional. Like, he's a home run hitter. He's really fast, great burst, and then he has that breakaway speed. When he's waiting for blockers, he can just sort of bounce around, and he shows off that vision to get upfield, and he's decisive as a runner. You're not going to see him, where Breece Hall kind of had, like I talked about, that issue. He sees the hole, he hits it and flies. So he's as a pure runner, he might be the best in this class. But then the weakness is, pass protection, he wasn't all that great. He runs through guys, but he doesn't break tackles at a big clip. And then we'll see whether or not, he loves to bounce these runs outside. If that's going to translate to the next level where he's going to be able to, run it around these NFL athletes, I'm not so sure. But Kenneth Walker, definitely a really good running back prospect. Got him in that mid-first dynasty tier. And then Zach Charbonnet, another guy. He played Michigan last year, didn't really do a whole lot, transfers to UCLA, and looks really good. I'd compare him to A.J. Dillon. Comes in at about 6'1", 220, so maybe not as big as A.J. Dillon, but he runs like him. He just runs like his hair is on fire. Like, it is just a big bruising back, north-south runner. And for his size, he shows off really good burst. He's another one that hits the hole and just goes flying. But on the other side, doesn't have the best lateral quickness, doesn't create a lot of yards, and I don't know what his 40-yard speed. It's good speed, but it's not home run speed. So that's why I kind of compare him to A.J. Dillon, where it's a guy who's going to be able to churn out yards. And I would love to see him in a cold weather environment where it gets later in the season and Zach Charbonnet can just go to town and get those yards for you. So really nice player that made an impact this year and flew up draft boards. Another one, probably the last guy I'll touch on here, it's kind of these top 5 that I really like at running back, is Kyren Williams. And he doesn't get talked about as much as these top guys, but he's got a skill set that reminds me of Austin Eckler, which will make him very intriguing for fantasy, where he's a good receiver. He's got sort of that compact build where, he's not plowing guys over, but he just sort of bounces around. He has the quickness to sort of find his way through small holes. And he's the best pass blocker in the running back class, which adds to that sort of 3-down ability. So I'm really interested. I want to watch more of him, whether I think he's like a 1A or if he could actually, what is he listed at here? Where did I have it? He is 5'9", 196, so he is a little smaller. I mean, he's still thickly built. I want to say he's a 1A, but he could take over a backfield with that skill set that he has, which will be really nice for fantasy if you play .5 PPR, full PPR, where I think he could get on the field really quickly as a rookie compared to maybe even like a Zach Charbonnet. So I have an early second on him in Dynasty, but a good landing spot, I could see him popping into that late first territory. So those are the 5 guys I'd be looking at right now. I still need to watch more on some of these dudes. Brian Robinson had a 1,000-yard rushing season for Alabama. James Cook, Dalvin's brother, has been pretty fun. But after that, kind of drops off. There are a few names I know I kind of like, haven't been able to put a grade on them yet, but Rashad White out of Arizona State and Tyler Algier out of BYU. Oh, and Jerome Ford out of Cincy. So there's still some names I think I could, when I'm watching more film, that might rise up. But I think my top 5 is pretty set in stone. And then lastly, we're going to hop over to the wide receivers. And this is the bread and butter of this class. And it seems like it's been the bread and butter of every draft class here lately. Just these wide receivers that are coming out of college are just so good. And we added another guy to this list that was kind of off radars. But we'll start, honestly, for me, these top 3 wide receivers all could have a case at the number 1 spot, maybe even this top 4. So we'll start with my number 1. Man, I just changed it to Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State, put him ahead of Burks. It's really close. I've got a 92 grade on him, which is like a high. I mean, I projects as an all-pro. All my top 3 project as all-pros, but round 1 grade on him, early first in Dynasty. If you want to talk about a guy that just finds ways to get open, I mean, 6'1", 93 is not a big dude, but just a technical player, route running, savant, great after the catch. We even saw some contested catchability, that catch against Michigan, which really got some eyes on him. I mean, he can just sort of do all that. He's the perfect kind of player to get open. I compared him to Jerry Jeudy a little bit. I've heard some Keenan Allen comps. He's sort of in that kind of player where maybe not, I mean, I don't know if he has the home run speed, some of those. Well, Keenan Allen doesn't really have home run speed, so maybe it's a good comp for him, where he might not have the boom of a Treylon Burks, who I'll talk about here, but if you're looking for a safe player who's going to be consistent at the next level, Garrett Wilson out of Ohio State is that guy. Treylon Burks, I mean, he was my wide receiver 1 for a while too. He's still right there. I mean, if you want to shoot for the skies, shoot for the stars, the guy with the highest ceiling is Treylon Burks. 6'3", 225. Sounds like he's going to run 4.4, maybe 4.3, which is just insane. I mean, just a freak athlete. And these are the guys, as scouts, that we sort of fall in love with the potential of what could they be. And what's really nice about Treylon Burks is that he's not just like this jump ball guy. Just he's used all over the field, sort of like A.J. Brown. I know like people like to comp him to. I don't know if he's quite there, but he's utilized all over the field. He can break tackles, bounce off defenders, and obviously with that size comes great contested catchability where he can outleap defenders, Moss dudes. There's one game I did where he literally back-to-back plays just went flying over the defender and caught the ball. He's that kind of guy. So he's got the freakish ability. He's got the breaking tackles. Really the thing with him, he's not the best route runner. He's not all that nuanced, which always can scare people a little bit. We've seen a lot of these, you fall in love with these freak athletes and they just don't pan out. I think Treylon Burks might be a little different than that, but you just got to hope that he can still separate well at the next level, handle press coverage, but where how he gets utilized, like I said, all over the field, I think that can sort of dodge those issues there and, make him just sort of a weapon on offense. And then the third guy that sort of joined this tier, just an unbelievable breakout year for Jamison Williams, was buried on the depth chart at Ohio State last year, transfers to Alabama, and puts up an unbelievable season. And another guy who, could have a case at the wide receiver 1 spot. We'll see him in the playoffs here in college football. First thing, I mean, the speed. He's got legit track speed, 4.3 speed, and the NFL loves guys with that kind of speed, game breaking. We saw Waddle go early this past year. He's doing well. I don't know if I'm not comparing him to a Waddle, but he's got that speed. And he's still, he's quick and out of his breaks. He can go up and get it. You saw some nice contested catch ability, and then getting just inside leverage on DBs. I mean, once he gets inside of you, there's no stopping him. So he's sort of that game-breaking speed boom player where, if you're looking for a guy who could put maybe have some lower point weeks for you in fantasy, but comes up with like a 20 or 30. Obviously, landing spot's going to affect that, but he's a big boom guy. The issues with him, he had some drops. Obviously, the 1 year of production, analytics people aren't going to like that. He doesn't block. He's just not a blocker, which is an issue as well. And then, he doesn't really, you watch Garrett Wilson, he can make guys miss after the play. Treylon Burks can run guys over. Jamison Williams doesn't really have either of those. He's not really all that elusive. He doesn't, it doesn't really make guys miss, but he's got the speed. That's where he wins. So interesting that those top three are all kind of different players. So that's why it's like kind of pick your flavor. And the last guy that could maybe join that tier that I've been watching more of, Drake London. You just look at the measurables, 6'5", 210, which is absurd for a receiver. And, I give him the Mike Evans comp, which doesn't, I'm not just lightly throwing that around, but he moves sort of similar to him where he's more fluid than you'd expect as a route runner and can make guys miss at times too. So you see a 6'5" guy, you assume he's just the jump ball expert, which he is. He can dominate those balls, but his ability after the catch, he can make plays as well. He fights for extra yards. Like, he's very physical as a receiver, shows off body control. I mean, he was the USC offense. His target share was absolutely absurd. The issues with him, for a guy that big, he's not that quick or deceptive off the line, so you gotta hope that he can clean that up, his releases, and then downfield separation. It's another thing with these big receivers, you always just gotta hope they can separate, and he sometimes can find his way through, but he's not going to be that guy who's taking the top off the defense. But as a reliable pass catcher for, maybe a young quarterback, I think he'd be perfect. He's that perfect, intermediate short game, just a reliable target. So, and he's got that 18.1 100th percentile breakout age that analytics people love. He's going to be 20 years old when he's drafted, so definitely a guy to keep your eye on as well, though I really like he's been growing on me quite a bit. After that, David Bell, he's been in that conversation too. I'm kind of iffy on him. I got borderline round 1 grade for him, late first in Dynasty, maybe early second. He's had a great year stats-wise. He's a physical receiver. That's sort of his thing. He's 6'2", 205, so thickly built, good blocker, amazing body control. He's made some crazy contorted catches out there at Purdue and shows good concentration in those. Quick off the line, but he's just not the best route runner. He's not all that sudden, and he never really seems, at least there's not a ton of games out on him, but he doesn't get a ton of separation, which worries me a little bit at his size. So I think he could be an interesting sort of weapon. I know he's got a really nice analytical profile. I'm not sure if I'm sold on David Bell completely, but I see the upside with a player like him. A few other guys here, getting to the round 2 kind of players. George Pickens, will be interesting to see if he plays more. I know he just came back from his torn ACL play. He had a 2-catch game the past week. He's got playoffs coming up for Georgia, so he's still going to be, he was a top guy before he got hurt, 6'3", 200. He's that contested catch guy. Really interesting prospect, was a top guy coming out of high school. Just going to have to wait and see on him. I kind of want to see what his tape looks like in these last few games. If we can see a glimpse of what we saw earlier in 2020, then maybe he might hop into that round 1 range. But there's already so many guys up there. George Pickens will be an interesting watch and see where the NFL sort of has him. at that point. Jahan Dotson out of Penn State. A little undersized, but he's sort of that route running guy. Very quick, gets open, reliable target. Just another one, you kind of saw the tier break after Drake London. These guys, I think, are good. But I don't know if you'll see as instant of an impact out of them. Jahan Dotson, solid player. Wan'Dale Robinson, one of my sort of draft crushes. I compared him to Rondale Moore. Not quite that kind of player, but he's got the young breakout age. He's just sort of that offensive weapon out there at Kentucky. Playmaker, just twitchy. He's not going to be a catch radius guy. He's not going to be out leaping dudes at 5'11", 185, but just sort of a weapon on offense that, if he falls in the right spot, could be really fun. And then the last guy I'll probably touch on here, Chris Olave. I've been lower on him than most for a while. I compare him to Robbie Anderson, where I think he's a fun deep threat. I just don't see him as a reliable player at the next level for fantasy. I mean, sort of like Robbie Anderson, where he's sort of boom or bust. He can take the top off the defense. He's one of the most productive receivers in Ohio State history. I just don't know if there's a ton of upside with him. I know he's going to be a little older. He could have declared last year. Some people don't like that. But yeah, I mean, if you can get him in the mid-second, I wouldn't hate that though. So it's a solid second-round investment on a receiver like him. So other names you can go through. John Mechie, I believe, tore his ACL. He might return. Jonathan Mingo out of Ole Miss. I watched him a little bit. If he declares, he's really cool. He's a big dude, 6'2", 215. But I'm expecting him to come back. But other than that, those are kind of the guys I'm looking at. Overall, I'll hop over, if you're watching on YouTube, to my board here that I made up for to check out Superflex, to sort of get an idea of what it looks like. As you can see, I really like this first round area. I mean, top to bottom for Superflex. I mean, the quarterbacks are a little iffy, but you can grab at the end of the first. You got top of the first, couple QBs. I mean, this is just a gold mine in here of players. Treylon Burks, Isaiah Spiller, Garrett Wilson, Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker. I mean, just down the line, I'd be very happy with any of those guys. And then even in the top of the second, Zach Charbonnet, Kyron Williams, George Pickens. Those are great values too. So I was a little iffy on this draft class earlier in the year before some of these guys started breaking out, but it's starting to get a little deeper where if you have a first-round pick in Superflex, I think you're getting a really good player, even an early second as well. I think that's where you should be targeting to get in your rookie drafts. First round or early second kind of drops off after the early second. Mid-second's all right. Chris Olave, Wan'Dale Robinson, but overall 2022 draft class is looking pretty good. And if you have those picks in those areas, I'd say you're going to be sitting pretty well. So hope you guys learned a little bit about some of these players. If you want to check out my database in here where you can look at all these players, check out what I've written about them. I know I've got Owen from the Weekly Huddle. I'll plug him again. He does write-ups for some of these guys, so you'll be able to click on a player, read about them. You can scroll over to the right here. Got all the film. Click a link. It'll pull it right up. So everything you need to be successful in your rookie drafts is all right here. And if you're more into the NFL draft, we've got all the defensive players as well. So if you want to look at, I know it's a nice corner class too. Owen's been doing all these. You can just click on them. Derek Stingley, roll through here. He's got a nice write-up on him, his own grading scale. So we've got everything. And if you're into the draft, you like the cut-ups I've been making, you want to support the channel, I'll probably leave the little graphic in here, my email. Shoot me an email. I'm just doing the payments through PayPal and Venmo. So email me, DM me on Twitter. We'll get you in here. And it's draft season's right around the corner, folks. College football ending, NFL season getting closer to the end, and then the fun begins. So thanks for everyone for tuning in to the Kielpro Dynasty Show, my first YouTube show. If you want more like this, hit the like button and subscribe. Let me know if you want more content like this. So as always, everybody, thank you for tuning in, and I will catch you next time.